What do you believe will motivate John Wick's desire for revenge and atonement in Chapter 5? In John Wick Chapter 5, we can expect to see our beloved assassin face new and difficult opponents. Who do you believe will be the greatest threat to John Wick in this installment? Prepare for an interactive trip full of questions, speculations, and excitement as we await the next chapter in John Wick's remarkable story. The future of John Wick Chapter 5 is uncertain, especially after the events of John Wick 4, yet the prolific, dog-loving hitman could return. Many consider John Wick Chapter 4 to be a franchise highlight, with spectators and critics appreciating the action while being surprised by the conclusion, which hinted the series could be done. However, there has been some John Wick 5 news after the release of the fourth film, indicating that there may be more John Wick adventures to come. The John Wick franchise was a stunning surprise that few anticipated. The first chapter was an entertaining and crazy action film that relaunched Keanu Reeves' career. From there, each sequel has expanded on the mythology of the world in which these films take place, while also cementing John Wick's status as one of the greatest action characters of all time. John Wick Chapter 4 found him attempting to resolve his issues with the High Table and eventually find peace. Unfortunately, the calm is short-lived, as John appears to die shortly after his win. Nonetheless, John Wick 5 news is set to keep the franchise going for at least another chapter. John Wick Chapter 5. The sequel is being written. Though details have been limited, the most recent update reveals that John Wick 5 is being written alongside other spin-offs, with the future release of films like Ballerina and the recent series The Continental. The franchise has expanded outside its primary features. However, Lionsgate Motion Picture Group chair Joe Drake was keen to emphasize that the original film series remains a priority. "We started to work right when the writer's strike started, and we got back to work as soon as it ended," Drake stated, but little new information has emerged in the months since the November 2023 announcement. John Wick Chapter 5. More John Wick is on the way. Despite the conclusion to John Wick Chapter 4, it has been announced that Chapter 5 is under progress. The revelation came shortly after the fourth film's release, when Lionsgate Motion Picture Group President Joe Drake revealed that they will begin brainstorming ideas for the fifth installment. Drake noted that the ending of John Wick Chapter 4 might be read in a variety of ways and is not always the decisive finish it appears to be. John Wick Chapter 5 cast. Who can return in John Wick 5? Keanu Reeves would have to reprise his role as the titular character in John Wick 5. At this time, John Wick may be his most beloved character, and the franchise cannot be imagined without him. Reeves discussed the potential for John Wick Chapter 5, adding, "The only reason we've had the opportunity to produce these films is because people appreciated what we did, so I believe we must wait and see how the audience reacts to it. The reception has been overwhelmingly good, yet the issue remains whether it was a satisfying finish." If Reeves chooses to return for John Wick 5, other franchise characters may also return. John Wick Chapter 4 concludes with Winston and Bella King visiting John's grave and expressing ambivalence, implying that one or both of them may have helped fake his death. John also made two new allies in the fourth film, Donnie Yen's Kane and Shamir Anderson's Tracker, both of whom could return. Also, with Reeves participating in the Ballerina spin-off, Ana de Armas, the film's star, might feature in John Wick Chapter 4. John Wick Chapter 5 story. What happens next? There have been no story specifics provided for John Wick Chapter 5, and it will undoubtedly be difficult to bring the character back after his suitable death. The John Wick franchise is on an extraordinary winning streak, with only Mission Impossible appearing to improve with each subsequent movie. Each sequel has delivered on expectations, while also providing a worthwhile expansion of the tale. However, as previous franchises have demonstrated, knowing when to stop is critical to a franchise's legacy. It also almost guarantees that the franchise will not be able to conclude satisfactorily. John dying as he completes his difficult task is a fitting conclusion. Bringing him back in John Wick Chapter 5 means that murdering him again would be unnecessary, and it is difficult to envision any conclusion being as effective. However, it should not be forgotten that the John Wick franchise has confounded expectations from the start. It grew from a modest action film to one of the best action movies of all time. So it's impossible to predict how the franchise will defy expectations by bringing John Wick back from the grave. Would Chad Stahelski direct John Wick Chapter 5? Another topic to be posed is whether Chad Stahelski is willing to return to the director's chair. Then, being willing may have nothing to do with it. Stahelski already has 3 big feature films in the works: Rainbow Six, a remake of Highlander, and an adaptation of The Ghost of Tsushima. With such a crowded schedule, Chad may need to reconsider delegating the John Wick directorial duties to a filmmaker who can give him a convincing proposition. That might pave the way for the return of the original co-director, David Leitch, who has directed recent action films such as Hobbs & Shaw, Atomic Blonde, and Bullet Train. Alternatively, Justin Liu might inject new vitality into the action franchise, just like he did with The Fast and the Furious. It's also been far too long since Gareth Evans directed an action film, and a return to the gritty action of The Raid will go perfectly with the John Wick style. but don't be surprised if Chad decides to return again. In October 2023, he told Inverse, "I have notebooks upon notebooks of shit behind me. John Wick's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We've got ideas for days. We've got ideas for days. We simply don't have the story locked." When Chad finds the proper story, he and Keanu will almost certainly return in some manner. What other actors could return to John Wick Chapter 5? If John Wick Chapter 5 is formally revealed shortly, Ian McShane will most certainly return as the Continental's owner, Winston, especially given how much time has been spent exploring Winston's backstory on Amazon's The Continental. Lawrence Fishburne, who has appeared in almost every John Wick film since Chapter 2, would almost certainly return. Unfortunately, due to his tragic death, Lance Reddick will not be returning, especially since his character, Sharon, was also killed. Fans will see Reddick one last time as Winston's loyal concierge in the upcoming spin-off Ballerina. Aside from those important characters, it's unclear who will return for Chapter 5. Donnie Yen could return as Wick's old friend Kane, and spectators will get to see if he survives the assassination attempt hinted at in Chapter 4's post-credits sequence. Mr. Nobody, Shamir Anderson's mystery tracker, may also return. Rooney, Ana de Armas' Ballerina, could advance from her film to Chapter 5 if she proves popular and survives her first journey. What's next in the John Wick universe? Speaking of Ana de Armas, the feature-length film Ballerina, directed by Underworld veteran Len Wiseman, is planned to hit theaters on July 7, 2024. The film, centered on a member of the Ruska Roman crime family established in Chapter 3, will also star Gabriel Byrne, Norman Reedus, and Catalina Sandino Moreno. Furthermore, Ian McShane and even Keanu Reeves are slated to make longer appearances in the film, whose plot takes place between Chapters 3 and 4. For die-hard franchise fans, Ballerina will have to keep them over until at least 2025, because Chapter 5 cannot be released before then. Given that it has yet to be officially announced, 2026 appears to be the most likely date. The only official information about John Wick Chapter 5 is that it is in development. During an earnings call in November 2023, Joe Drake, chairman of Lionsgate's Motion Pictures Group, stated, "On the Wick side, we have many spin-offs in Wick 5. We started working on it exactly when the writer's strike began, and we resumed work as soon as it finished." Reading between the lines of that announcement, it's evident that fans will soon hear Keanu Reeves speak the infamous line, "Yeah, I'm thinking I'm back." To summarize, John Wick Chapter 5 is shaping up to be another dramatic chapter in the story of everyone's favorite hitman. From violent hand-to-hand combat to high-octane gunfights, Chapter 5 promises to provide the franchise's signature adrenaline-pumping action. With Keanu Reeves reprising his role, a fascinating new tale, and the promise of a more dramatic action, Chapter 5 will undoubtedly satisfy fans and leave them eagerly anticipating the next installment in John Wick's epic adventure. These are a few more fascinating facts regarding John Wick Chapter 5. What are you most looking forward to about John Wick Chapter 5? Please subscribe if you found this content interesting, and feel free to comment in the section below. Goodbye.